For millennia, this land has stood under the watchful gaze of the cosmos. Secrets of a forgotten empire are locked within these sacred waters.
In the ancient Vedic heavens, Chandra Deva radiates eternal peace. His celestial chariot pulls the tides of time.
I give my daughter Siza, sacred alliance to you. This sacred alliance would alter the cosmos forever, bound by duty and celestial law.
Chandra Deva's love for Rohini knew no bounds, leaving his other queens to weep in the shadows.
And disrespected my daughters. Therefore I curse you with a consuming disease. Your shining glory shall diminish day by day.
In the heart of the sacred mountains lies a presence beyond time, the ultimate stillness of the cosmos. Out of the sacred mist, the Supreme Being appears. Chandra, your devotion pleases me. For eons, gods and demons churned the ocean, until the moon god Chandra gracefully emerged.
In the land of ancient secrets, time was measured by the heavens. As the moon fades, the wheel of time continues of the cosmos.
The moon is an inconstant neighbor. Every month, it cycles through shifting shapes, displays bruised dark patches, and vanishes into a deep blood-red shadow. Today, we look to orbital mechanics to explain these quirks. But before the invention of the telescope, early civilizations mapped these same changes through the lens of character and conflict. This animated diagram reveals a surprising historical reality. By the 5th century, ancient Indian astronomers were already using complex mathematics. Texts like the Surya Siddhanta employed advanced trigonometry to calculate the moon's elliptical path with remarkable precision. Yet the same scholars who calculated those orbits revered Chandra, the Hindu god of the moon. They inhabited a world where rigorous equations lived in harmony with vibrant mythology. These legends do not simply exist alongside the math. They provide a narrative structure that maps directly onto the physical movements of the moon, turning abstract points of light into a celestial drama. Consider the 27 days of the lunar cycle. This circular star map plots the moon's monthly path through 27 segments of the sky, known as Nakshatras. In the myths, these segments are personified as the 27 daughters of the sage Daksha, all of whom were married to Chandra. The story begins with a conflict of favoritism. Chandra ignored 26 of his wives to spend all his time with just one, Rohini. As the moon remains locked onto her constellation while the others dim, the neglected sisters turn to their father to demand justice. When Chandra ignored repeated warnings to treat his wives equally, the sage Daksha retaliated. He placed a devastating curse on the moon god, sentencing him to suffer from a wasting, consuming disease. As the sickness progressed, Chandra began to physically wither, losing his brilliance night after night. This provides the mythological framework for the moon's waning. To prevent the moon from disappearing entirely, the other gods intervened. A compromise was reached. Chandra could temporarily heal his affliction by bathing in the sacred waters of the Sarasvati River. With each immersion in the water, Chandra regained his strength. Over the course of 2 weeks, he would grow back to his full, luminous self, aligning perfectly with the astronomical waxing of the moon. Through this lens, the monthly lunar cycle is seen as a perpetual rhythm of decline and recovery, born from a celestial story of favoritism and its consequences. Beyond the phases of the moon, the myths also address the permanent, dark shadows visible on the lunar surface. One legend centers on Ganesha, the elephant-headed god seen here in this ornate statue. After a great feast, Ganesha was riding home on his mouse mount when a snake crossed their path. The mouse bolted, Ganesha fell, and as he struggled to get up, he heard Chandra laughing at him from the sky. Infuriated by the mockery, Ganesha snapped off his own tusk and hurled it at the moon. The impact left a permanent scar on Chandra's face, explaining the dark craters we still see from Earth. While a tusk explains a crater, the sudden total darkness of a solar or lunar eclipse required a much more high-stakes narrative. During the churning of the ocean, a demon named Rahu used a disguise to steal a drink of the nectar of immortality. He nearly succeeded in becoming a god through deception. Chandra and the sun god recognized the demon and alerted Vishnu, who used his disc to decapitate the intruder. Panning across this stone relief, we see that severed reclining head on the far right, representing Rahu, who became immortal the moment the nectar touched his throat. Now, the immortal severed head of Rahu eternally chases the sun and the moon through the sky to get his revenge. A literal eclipse is the moment Rahu finally catches the moon and swallows it. The darkness lasts until the moon eventually slips out through the demon's severed neck. From this perspective, every blemish on the lunar crust and every eclipse in the sky serves as a visible record of these ancient divine conflicts. In this tradition, the moon is more than a distant observer. It is a physical vessel for Soma, the divine nectar that sustains the gods. Because the moon's light is believed to distribute this nectar, Chandra is revered as the lord of plants and vegetation. His cycles are thought to govern the growth and medicinal potency of herbs on Earth. This influence extends into the structure of human society. Chandra remains the foundation of the Hindu lunisolar calendar and gave his name to Monday, known in Sanskrit as Somavara. In the study of Jyotisha, or Hindu astrology, Chandra represents the internal world, presiding over human emotions, fertility, and the rhythms of the mind. These ancient associations are still honored at physical sites like the Kailasanathar temple. This intricate sandstone architecture serves as a grounding point for those seeking to align themselves with the moon's perceived energy. Chandra's domain bridges the gap between the sky and the earth, governing the rhythms of medicine, the measurement of time, and the fluctuations of human psychology. Today, our understanding of the moon has transitioned from the realm of legend into the era of direct exploration, yet Chandra's legacy remains central to that journey. When a modern rocket clears these launch towers, it often carries the moon god's name into orbit. India's lunar exploration program is called Chandrayaan, which translates from Sanskrit as moon vehicle. The engineering required to reach the lunar surface relies on the same cold mathematics used by the astronomers of antiquity, now refined into the telemetry of the space age. Looking at the moon today means seeing both a target for modern aerospace engineering and an ancient theater for divine drama. It remains a bridge between what we can calculate and how we choose to remember it.
Seriously, have you ever looked up and wondered about those craters? Or what's actually happening during an eclipse? In Hindu mythology, there is a wild, highly dramatic story for every single one of these lunar phenomena. We are going to unpack exactly how ancient cultures made sense of the physical world. They didn't have telescopes or lunar rovers, but what they did have was an incredibly rich tradition of storytelling and observation. By personifying the celestial bodies, they brought the universe down to Earth. Every spot on the moon, every time it disappears from the night sky, and every shadow it casts was explained through the life, loves, and sometimes massive mistakes of this one central figure.
Section 1. The Many Faces of Chandra. Cosmic Origins.
So here's a crucial point. In the earliest Vedic texts, Soma was actually a sacred plant drink. It was highly revered, this intoxicating, energizing nectar used in ancient rituals. There's actually an entire section of the ancient Rig Veda dedicated completely to Soma, both the plant and the deity that represented it. But as time went on, this concept evolved. You might be wondering, how does a plant drink become the moon? Well, ancient texts started to describe the moon as a celestial vessel, lit and nourished by the sun where the divine nectar of immortality actually resides. Eventually, the name Soma became inextricably intertwined with Chandra, which literally translates to bright, shining, or glittering. The two simply became one shining lunar god.
Now, Chandra wasn't just a glowing orb. He had jobs to do. These ancient aliases basically read like a vast cosmic resume. As Taradeepa, he's the lord of stars, ruling the entire night sky. As Nishikara, he is quite literally the nightmaker. Then there's Shashank, translating to hair-marked. It's this beautiful poetic nod to the shapes people saw on the moon's surface. Where Western cultures might look up and see a man in the moon, Indian cultures often saw a hare. And perhaps most importantly, as Oshadipati, he is the lord of herbs. Because of his origins as that plant drink Soma, Chandra is heavily associated with vegetation. The moonlight was actually believed to nurture medicinal plants, which linked the lunar cycle directly to the growth and healing power of earthly agriculture.
Moving on to Section 2, Cosmic Scandals and Wars, a primetime drama.
Okay, so Chandra's personal life? Absolute chaos. His scandalous elopement with Tara quite literally caused an all-out war among the gods. Tara was the wife of Brihaspati, who was the teacher of the gods, the Devas. She visited Chandra's abode, they fell in love, and she simply refused to leave. As you can imagine, Brihaspati was furious. He demanded her return, but Chandra stubbornly argued that Tara had come of her own free will. This personal dispute escalated massively. Indra, the king of the gods, backed the husband and threatened war. But Chandra wasn't alone. The Asuras, the traditional rivals of the Devas, threw their support behind the moon god. It became this fierce conflict that threatened the entire cosmos. It got so bad that Braha, the creator god, personally had to step in, scold Chandra, and put an end to the battle. Tara was returned, but she was already pregnant with Chandra's child. That child was named Buddha, who would go on to become the deity associated with intellect and the planet Mercury.
Section 3, Myths of the Night Sky, Mechanics of the Cosmos.
So Chandra eventually married the 27 daughters of the sage Daksha. But here is the genius part. These 27 wives aren't just characters in a soap opera. They actually personify the 27 Nakshatras, or lunar mansions. This is a brilliant ancient astronomical tool. By dividing the sky into 27 segments, early astronomers could precisely track the moon's roughly 27-day orbit around the Earth. Every night, the moon sits in a different lunar mansion. He's visiting a different wife. It is an incredibly elegant way to combine storytelling with mathematical tracking of the celestial sphere.
And this setup brilliantly illustrates why the moon changes shape. Out of his 27 wives, Chandra had a clear favorite, Rohini. He spent all his time with her, completely ignoring the other 26. Naturally, the sisters complained to their father, Daksha. After warning Chandra multiple times to treat all his daughters equally, a furious Daksha cursed the moon god with a wasting disease, tuberculosis. Chandra began to literally fade away, and this caused panic across the universe, because its fading light meant the medicinal plants were dying too. The gods begged Daksha for mercy. Daksha couldn't take the curse back entirely, but he modified it. Now, for half the month, Chandra wastes away, which explains the waning moon. Then he bathes in the sacred waters of the Saraswati Tirtha, recovering his strength and growing bright again, explaining the waxing moon. It's a simple story, perfectly explaining a really complex astronomical cycle.
But wait, the drama does not stop there. How did ancient people explain the terrifying phenomenon of an eclipse when the moon or sun just suddenly goes dark? The story takes us to the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the cosmic ocean, where gods and demons were actually cooperating to extract the nectar of immortality. During the event, a demon named Rahu disguised himself as a god to sneak a sip of the nectar. But Chandra, the moon, and Surya, the sun, saw right through his disguise. They immediately snitched to the god Vishnu. Vishnu threw his spinning disc, his chakra, and sliced Rahu's head cleanly off. But because Rahu had already swallowed a drop of the nectar, his severed head and his detached body became immortal.
So that immortal, severed head of Rahu now holds a permanent grudge against the sun and the moon for revealing his deception. He relentlessly chases Chandra across the night sky, and occasionally he catches up and literally swallows the moon whole. But because Rahu has no body, the moon simply passes straight through his severed neck and emerges shining once again. This is the ancient, highly symbolic explanation for a lunar eclipse. It takes a scary celestial event and turns it into this thrilling tale of cosmic revenge.
And they even had an explanation for the craters and dark spots on the moon's surface. To explain this, the texts tell a pretty funny story involving the elephant-headed god Ganesha. One night, a heavily overstuffed Ganesha was riding home on his mount, which is a tiny mouse. A snake startled the mouse, Ganesha tumbled off, and his enormous belly hit the ground. Well, Chandra, watching from high up in the night sky, burst out laughing at the ridiculous sight. Ganesha was deeply embarrassed and absolutely furious. In his rage, he broke off one of his own tusks and hurled it like a javelin straight into the moon's face. He cursed Chandra to never be whole again, forever scarring his glowing surface.
which brings us to Section 4, From Myth to Modern Science, Observing the Heavens.
This deification of the moon really bridges cultures globally, revealing just how closely these ancient societies were observing the heavens. Just look at our calendar systems. The Greco-Romans named the first day of the work week after Luna, giving us Monday or Moon Day. Similarly, the Hindu calendar rooted their day in Soma, creating Somavara. Despite being separated by vast distances, different civilizations developed incredibly similar astrological structures, like the days of the week, heavily influenced by their shared awe of the moon.
But what is even more astounding is the math hidden right beneath the surface of these traditions. Texts like the Surya Siddhanta, which is an astronomical treatise completed somewhere between the 5th and 10th centuries, didn't just rely on myths of Ganesha throwing tusks or Chandra bathing in sacred rivers. They included sophisticated, highly technical formulas. For instance, they used values like r equals 3438 minutes to accurately calculate the moon's elliptical orbit and predict its past and future positions. They understood the mechanics of the cosmos on a deeply mathematical level. They perfectly balanced their mythological reverence with rigorous scientific inquiry.
It is just incredible to think about the journey of humanity's relationship with the moon. The exact same Sanskrit word, Chandra, which represented the glowing deity who eloped with Tara, rode a three-wheeled chariot, and fought off vengeful demons, now literally names the high-tech Chandrayaan spacecraft orbiting our moon today. It shows that whether through sweeping mythological epics or cutting-edge aerospace engineering, our fundamental desire to understand the celestial bodies remains completely unchanged. So the next time you look up at a glowing, waxing moon, consider the thousands of years of stories, math, and sheer wonder it took to get us here. It really leaves us to wonder, what cosmic secrets are we going to discover next?